afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. We begin today with a quote. Garrison Keillor once said, "A book is a gift you can open again and again." Or how about this one? Books make great gifts because they have whole worlds inside of them. And finally, from Abraham Lincoln, "My best friend is the man who'll give me a book that I've not yet read." Well, today we're going to celebrate books and the gift of reading. I want to welcome two Vermont librarians who've selected more than a dozen books to highlight for this afternoon. Amy Howlett is the Springfield Town Librarian, and Hannah Peacock is with the Burnham Memorial Library in Colchester. They'll each review books for all ages and reading abilities, and at the end of the program, I'll tell you how you can get a complete list of the books that we'll be discussing this afternoon. Well, thanks again for coming in. This is always one of my favorite times of year to see what's out there in books and what we should get, maybe possibly good for gifting.
That's the whole idea.
So you can start off.
So I'm going to start with I Wish You More. I think the best books for the youngest, we're going to start with the youngest and then move up, are things like Goodnight Moon and Mother Goose. Mother Goose is always a great one. But if you want something a little newer, I Wish You More is the wishes that we as adults have for our children. So I wish you more hugs than Uggs. I wish you more we than me. I wish you more ups and downs. And what I love about these photos, these pictures, is that they're bright and upbeat, and they're almost all outdoors. So, you know, you're in a snowstorm or the rain, or you're on a beach. These are wonderful wishes to have for our children. The book ends with, I wish you more stories than stars, which is perfect for this time of year. I see grandparents sitting with a kid on their lap going through this book. Perfect.
Nice.
Perfect.
So my first book is also a picture book, and for some reason I chose all brand new books this year. So all my books are 2016 publications, which is kind of nice.
Maybe because the bookstores will have them, so it's easier
yes,
to get
but
them.
I love the fact that Amy's going to talk about some classic books as well. Anyway, so my first one is We Found a Hat by John Clausen, who's a Caldecott-winning illustrator and author. And this is a third book in the hat series. The first one was I Want My Hat Back. Second one, This Is Not My Hat. And now this one is a slightly more gentle and a little more thought-provoking book, because in the first two, there are larger animals that may actually have eaten the smaller animals in the book. This one is a little more gentle. So there are two turtles, as you can see in the cover, and there's only one hat. So what do you do when there's one hat? They both look good in the hat. They both recognize that the other one looks good in the hat. So they come up with a solution, which is just to abandon the hat and move on. But neither one of them is happy with this. So in their dream, they imagine they both have a hat. Great conversation starter with kids. You can talk about what do you do when you don't get what you want? What do you do next when you can't solve a problem? So with Clausen's awesome sort of dark illustrations, but he's a great illustrator. It's a sort of a sepia-toned book. So not a lot of color, but I think
I like
images.
the eyes.
Yeah, they really pack a punch, and it's a really great, simple book. It's also funny because it's in 3 parts, so a little bit like a chapter book for the really younger crowd.
Nice.
So I have a child of books with this weird cover with a little blue girl on it. This is a book person's book. And Hannah reminded me that when you're reading to a child, the book has to work on 2 levels, for the adult reading it and for the child. And this one does. So on one level, it's a kid's story. A little girl comes from a world of books, and she takes a little boy climbing mountains, sitting on a raft, sailing over a sea. But for the adult, the sea that she's sailing over is made of words. And the words
look
are
at that.
Unbelievable words.
Yeah.
So there's Dr. Dolittle, there's Jules Verne, there's Dracula. I mean, they're kidnapped. Books I haven't thought of for ages. It's just a fabulous, you go back to thinking about what those books meant to you. Swiss Family Robinson, there's another great one. So the story does really work, but the message is, books are full of imagination, and that's what kids are going to get out of them, and that's why we love them so much. The authors are Oliver Jeffers and Sam Winston, really famous. Winston has stuff in Museum of Modern Art and Tate London. Jeffers invented the font that's in The Day Crayons Went on Strike.
The day the crayons walked away, or
there's
2 books.
The day the crayons did something.
Yeah.
Right.
So perfect on so many levels, but for book lovers, definitely.
Oliver Jeffers is definitely one of the most popular, most brilliant illustrators around today. He's pretty wonderful authors. So I'm going to move on to a easy reader by Mo Willems called The Thank You Book. And
Speaking of popular, Mo
my God.
Willems.
Mo Willems might be the guy in children's publishing right now. And he sort of knows that he has this power. So he's written several books. He's won the Caldecott Medal, which is for Best Picture Book. And this is the end of an era, as everyone's calling it, because he has now written 25 of these books, and this is the 25th and final book. And the two characters, Elephant and Piggy, which every kid knows, are thanking everyone who made this series possible. So in the book, it's Elephant and Piggy. Elephant wants to thank everybody, and Piggy's worried that he's going to forget someone. So it's about thank you, it's about gratitude, and mostly then it's about Mo Willems being grateful for the success he's had. And, kids have been asked how they feel about this series ending, and one little kid said it gives him a chance now to stretch his brain. And what Mo Willems is doing now, he is curating a series of books called the Elephant and Piggy Love Reading, because they're retired now. And now they're going to be at the beginning and end of each of these books. 3 have come out so far, and they sort of introduce the book and then talk about how they feel about the book. And Elephant and Piggy is a phenomenon. It is really the most popular thing in the world right now. They've actually made a musical out of it. And any kid who sees these, and it's Mo Willems' brilliance is you read his books and you like them. When you read them to kids, you just see them, they howl. And it's this series, which is all wonderful, all 25, the Knuffle Bunny series. And the Pigeon, which started it all off. That was his first book, and which won a Caldecott honor book. And he can do no wrong. And this series, you want to find fault with it, you can't. It's perfect.
All right.
So Hannah's right. I'm all about the classics. What can I say? This is The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster, illustrations by Jules Pfeiffer. And Judy, you remind me that we love the 60s, and for many of us, that was a very formative period. Not you, I'm thinking, but for me. The Phantom Tollbooth kind of sums that up. It's about a bored kid who is given a put-together toll booth made out of cardboard, and he drives through the toll booth, and he goes on this wonderful, inventive journey. The book is full of puns, full of funny words and humor. So, for example, he visits Dr. Cacophony. What a great word. What a great idea. And the next place he goes is a place where silence is really revered. And it's an old lady who loves the silence. So you get these juxtapositions that are just fun. And the idea of going on a journey. Perfect for middle school, I'm thinking. I'm right about this, right?
Younger kids can have it read aloud to them.
Yeah, good. But for many of us, it's revisiting a time and a place that was really special.
Nice.
So that's the Phantom Tollbooth. And lots of bookstores have it. And certainly many libraries, too, if you want to look at it ahead of time.
Right.
As funny and whimsical as Phantom Tollbooth is, I'm going to move on to a slightly darker book. And this is a modern retelling of Snow White. It's a graphic novel by Matt Phelan, who has now written, I think, 4 graphic novels. Prior to that, he illustrated a lot of children's books, but now I think he's found his little niche where he's a history buff. So he's writing books, modern retellings of historical novels or historical stories. And this one is Depression-era Manhattan, Snow White. So there's still the ugly stepmother. There's still the prince, there's still the poisoned apple and all that, but they've been given a twist for the 20s. So it's a very dark book. Like the illustrations are very little color, very little text, and a lot of reviewers have said that it sort of feels like a film noir.
I was going to say book noir.
Exactly, that's a great term for it, and it's a great new way of seeing a story that we all know and love, and it goes back. It's a little Disney-like, but it also goes back to the original fairy tale that's a little darker than the ones we read about now. And I think it's a great book for middle graders, not so much for the younger one, because it's definitely dark. And the dwarves are there, but they're totally different. I won't tell you what they are, but the dwarves are an awesome adaptation.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's a really great graphic novel.
Good.
So I'm still plugging away at the idea that classics are not the only thing, but definitely worth revisiting. So I wanted to remind everybody about Little Women, a book that you can read as a young adult and then read again, maybe in your 20s and in your 50s or 60s or 70s. So just the bones of the story, 4 young women living at home together, sharing the house with their mother. Their father's away at war. And it's the period, maybe 2 years, 3 years, 4 years of them growing up and becoming little women. It's Jo that we love, of course, the scribbler, the mad woman in the attic, frantically writing and trying to think about how she can add her bit to the family budget. The edition is fabulous. I love these jackets. These are Puffin and Bloom books, and they've also done a beautiful edition of Anne of Green Gables, real favorite, and Heidi, which I think people are still reading.
Right.
Imagine that.
Yeah. All right, what's next, Hannah?
Okay, so I have a teen novel, and this is one of the best ones I've read this year. I'm on a book award committee, and while this is written for high schoolers for my book award, which is 4th through 8th, we would consider this because there's nothing inappropriate about it. It's about a 16-year-old girl who has 2 moms, and she's ready to fight anyone who questions her or her family's lifestyle. So a preacher has moved into town who's pretty homophobic, and she's ready to, fight. And his son moves to town as well, obviously, and she gets a wrong first impression of him. So she and her 2 best friends, who are awesome characters, have a mystery club where they sort of explore unexplained phenomena like ESP and crystals and all this. And she buys this amulet online called the Eye of No, and she believes it has this power. So every time she's mad at someone, every time a bully or a name caller comes up to her, she sort of invokes the power of this amulet, and terrible things happen to people. So we're not sure if it's really because of this thing or because it's just a coincidence, but it's a wonderful book. She's a great character. She doesn't want to fit in and be like a popular sporty kid. She just wants to be herself, and she's ready to stand up to the bullies.
Nice message.
Absolutely, yeah.
So News of the World by Paulette Giles is sort of a Western, sort of a novel. Takes place right after the Civil War, and I think about the appeal of true grit. So again, it's a much older man. He's in his 70s, and it is he who reads the news of the world. So this is in the 1860s. He has newspapers. He goes to every town and gets them, and he shakes out his newspaper, charges 10 cents a piece to come in, and reads stories of what is happening at the North Pole, what is happening in far-off India, where there's a census and women won't give their husbands names because there's something bad about that. His real task is to take a captive, a young girl who's 10, all the way through Texas, through the Badlands, through cowboys. It's endearing, it's charming. I fell in love. So News of the World, I think, perfect for the adults on your list.
Nice.
Right. So my adult novel is Jacqueline Woodson's Another Brooklyn. And Jacqueline Woodson won the National Book Award last year for Brown Girl Dreaming, and this is her first adult novel in 20 years. She's been winning all kinds of awards for teens and kids, and this is her sort of memory back into Brooklyn growing up in the 70s, and she's now come back to Brooklyn after she's now a Ivy League educated anthropologist studying death, and she's come back to Brooklyn for her father's funeral, and she sees one of her best friends from middle and high school on the train, and it brings back all these memories. So it's memories of the time during the Vietnam War, obviously Brooklyn, the Son of Sam murders, and this brings back all these crazy memories of growing up and having to be really tough against some awful things that happen and growing up African-American in a tough neighborhood. It's one of the most beautiful books I've read. Her language, you read her sentences and you can't believe that someone was able to express themselves that way. She is
Nice.
an incredibly talented woman.
So just a few words about Razor Girl. We've been a little bit serious today, but if you want a good laugh this year, get Razor Girl. Carl Hyacin, Florida. Who doesn't like to laugh at Florida? I kept saying to myself, is this too over the top? Nah, look at what we're dealing with every day. So rednecks, tourists, crazy.
Sounds like vacation.
Yeah, it does.
So my last book is Some Writer, The Story of E.B. White. It's the biography of E.B. White. And Melissa Sweet, who illustrated and wrote this book, went back to the E.B. White's alma mater of Cornell and studied all the papers and met with his granddaughter to find out more information. And it's one of the most beautiful books to handle. It's all photographs and illustrations and documents about E.B. White's life, and it explains how a man who was a staff writer for The New Yorker and Harper's Magazine decided to become a kids writer when he thought most kids' books were dull. And this tells the story of his life, and it's a great book for kids who are reading Charlotte's Web for the first time, or for adults who are nostalgic about that time when they read Stuart Little. Or it really is one of the nicest books to hold. I think this is the present for Christmas for a lot of families.
Nice. My pick was The Girls by Emma Cline, loosely based on the Manson family. Yeah, it took place kind of in the 60s, which is, as we mentioned, we were kind of growing up and the country was in turmoil, and it was just, it's just an interesting read and, an easy read and a popular read, too.
Flying off the shelves in libraries.
Too, yeah.
Yeah. Well, for a complete list of the books that we've reviewed this afternoon, you can write to the Vermont Department of Libraries at 109 State Street in Montpelier. The zip Zip code is 05609. Be sure to include a return address. If you prefer, you can make the request by phone. Call 802-828-3261 and ask for the Across the Fence book list. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you, Judy.
I've got a couple of books I've dog-eared that I've got to read now. That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.